Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the live stream. We got Rusty Boone in the chat. What's up, Rusty? Hope you and your family are amazing. If you're here, we got Ron here too, and Nate. Oh man, I got some of my good friends here tonight. What a privilege. As always, I appreciate your time and attention. I know we're all busy in our lives, so the fact that you are here to hang out with me, I think, is a tremendous compliment. It's a compliment to the fact that what I share and what I help is that I help you, that I basically serve you and give you value. And that's going to be my intention tonight, to share some things that are on my heart related to nutrition in particular. I have a lot of good topics to cover in tonight's live stream. But also, if you have questions, please post them into the chat forum. I can see them live as we're coming through here, and I'll answer your questions and weave them through into this discussion tonight, and this will be very, very valuable. So I'm feeling ready and excited. I'm ready to kind of launch into it. So post your questions in the chat and let's get going. I've been doing some thinking, and that thinking is about the philosophy behind nutrition. And what I think is that there's stages in our development of nutrition understanding. When we're getting ourselves healthy, we're starting to find those subset of foods that work for us. We're creating consistency with go-to meals. We're learning to eat less sugar, less processed food, more whole foods, and all of that is great. That's like the foundational beginning stage. And then we can move into this next stage where we're really starting to hone in on the foods that are most nutrient dense. I'm talking like the nutrient dense superfoods, if you will. And I'm going to check one thing before. How is my sound coming through for everyone? Is it okay, or could it be better? Sounds good? Okay, nice. So we get to a place in nutrition where we want to start selecting foods for nutrient density, because not all foods are created equal. And when we're eating food, we want to be eating the best kinds of foods. And what that means is those foods are loaded with the most micronutrients. A macronutrient is a protein, a carb, a fat. These are the things that make up calories. Micronutrients are the vitamins and minerals that actually make our cells work. And this is cool because I think what we're going to see as we get deeper into the future over the next 10, 20 years of medical science and understanding is that, yes, calories are part of the equation, but what we're really going to start to do for longevity is to optimize micronutrients. And this means vitamins and minerals. Now, without you needing to have a master's degree or PhD in nutritional science to understand what these things do, you want more vitamins and minerals in your diet. Generally speaking, the B vitamins are involved in energy production. You have B1 through B9, all the different kinds, and they all generally help your mitochondria produce more energy from the foods you eat. And we're going to be studying people's genetics more in the future, doing these whole genome sequencing. And what we're finding is people have different variations of different enzymes that mean that they need more B vitamins. So my first argument for you here, and I'm going to get into some of the foods right away, is you need to prioritize B vitamins in your diet. You want to get a ton of these things. And I'm going to read off a list of some of the best, most rich B vitamin sources. If you are eating a diet that has animal foods as well as plant-based foods, but animal foods, I am making a strong argument that one of the simplest things you could take away from this presentation is to start eating liver. Start eating liver and organ meats. Beef liver, chicken liver, lamb liver. You could also get into the whole heart thing as well if you want. But like liver single-handedly contains B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B7, B9, B12. Like insane amount, because this is the organ literally in these animals' bodies that concentrates these vitamins to have the function. So if you eat that, you get basically all your bases covered. Salmon and sardines, amazing sources. We'll get into that in a second from the omega-3. I highly recommend you look into getting a cold water fatty fish. High quality eggs. Literally an egg yolk is a multivitamin. If you have kids and you get 2 or 3 egg yolks in their body, like you're covering like almost 30 to 40% of the nutrients they need throughout a day. Non-fortified nutritional yeast. This is something that you should just buy. Go on Amazon, type in non-fortified nutritional yeast. When a food is fortified, that means they have added synthetic B vitamins to that. We see like these fortified breakfast cereals. And I've done some foray of the research, and I'm pretty sure, well, one, we absorb the natural non-synthetic vitamins better because those are coming in a concert in natural foods with other things. Two, I spoke with Dave Asprey, and he told me that there's some vitamins like vitamin B6, which is called pyridoxine, that's in a lot of supplements. When you get the synthetic form, it actually clogs up your receptors, making the actual vitamin B6 not work well. Long rant to say that I think we should be getting our vitamins mostly from food sources. But if you're using any of our supplements at Fit Father, Fit Mother, we make sure that we have all the premium best kinds of these vitamins. But non-fortified nutritional yeast, how do you get this in? On a salad topping. Anytime you make any kind of sauce, like a pasta sauce, whatever, throw it in there, 2-3 tablespoons. It is phenomenal. Donna asks, how do I identify high quality eggs? The yolk should be more orange. And I think I just generally think like where my budget goes, spend more for the quality eggs. I'm not saying you need to buy like top shelf eggs. I personally do, but buy one that's, ideally organic, maybe pastured chicken so they can eat a more natural diet, but the yolk should be more orange than yellow, indicating that it has more vitamins in it that actually legitimately give it the color. So continuing the B vitamins down here. If you're not getting some kind of legume in your diet, this is lentils, chickpeas, black beans, white beans, garbanzo beans, whatever, like think of this as a go-to. We have an epidemic right now of people with high cholesterol. The fiber in beans and legumes, let alone all the B vitamins and minerals, all this stuff, binds cholesterol in the GI tract and lowers it naturally. These are things that we've kind of gotten away from eating. And it's really good to include these at lunch or dinner, just to kind of get a little practical. Like lunch, you're doing some kind of salad. You could just bring like a half can of some beans and kind of mix it in there, or do a little bit of a bowl, or just start putting some beans on the side of your perfect plate that you're making. It will absolutely enhance your health. Avocado. This is a food that, as we're going to go through this micronutrient conversation, literally checks almost every single box. It is loaded with vitamins and minerals. So it's like, if you can eat an avocado a day, like that keeps the doctor away, hands down. Like that is a high, super rock solid food. There's a food that you don't have to buy organic necessarily. Most people, and I want you to start becoming a little more of a snob of like, when you actually pick and buy your fruit, that you buy it at the peak ripeness. So buy these things when they're green, and then when they come and they're just a little soft, then you want to eat these things. By the time they're black, soft, and mottled, you've missed it a little bit. Mushrooms, shiitake, portobello, these things are loaded in B vitamins. So get a B vitamin source in your diet. For me personally, I'm not eating liver right now for personal reasons, but that is probably the number one food I would just say incorporate a couple times a week. Phenomenal. I have about at least 3 eggs a day, sometimes 6. I often have salmon and sardines for my B vitamins. Also, you get a lot of minerals, and I add nutritional yeast to most of my foods, and I have avocados almost every day, and beans come in a couple times a week. So you start to think about the B vitamin equation for your energy. These are some foods that are just so important. And the reason we're even having this discussion is because what's happened over the last 100 years, one, in 1920, the obesity rate was 5 to 10%. Today, it's 75% of people are overweight. Like, yeah, a lot of shit's gone down in the last 100 years. Ultra processed food, monocrop farming, our soils are depleted. And because our soils are depleted, there's like US agriculture. I don't know if I even fully believe their studies. I pulled up some stuff from like, I think they're measuring from like 1930, 40 to like 1999. In some cases, the amount of vitamins that are in like an apple per se and minerals is like 40% less than it used to be. Might not be that extreme, maybe 20 to 40, but we're just getting less of these things because we're not eating as many natural foods and the soil's a little depleted. So we got to get more of these in the diet. I'm going to continue to groove through the ideas of these micronutrients and microminerals. So the macro minerals, macro meaning the ones we need in the greatest quantity, are sodium, calcium, magnesium, potassium. Sodium, calcium, magnesium, potassium. When you see electrolytes marketed online, these electrolyte powders, they are almost just having these things. Like, what was Gatorade? Gatorade was sugar, dextrose, paired with some sodium, potassium, And I don't even know if magnesium was in the original formula, but that's basically what it is. It was like sugar with the macro minerals. Macro minerals are cool, like get them for sure. But like the micro minerals are actually what's more interesting and what most people are missing out on. Sodium is easy to get. If you're following our lifestyle, you wake up in the morning, in your morning hydration, you're throwing in some either Celtic sea salt, very rich in minerals, pink Himalayan sea salt, very rich in minerals. So that's going to cover your sodium bases. We'll get to calcium a little bit. This is particularly important. You want to be getting calcium-rich foods. Magnesium is something I'm very passionate about. It is estimated that I think like over 70% of people are not getting enough magnesium. This is the one thing, you prioritize magnesium-rich foods in your diet, your energy is going to go through the roof. It is involved in ATP production. It relaxes the nervous system, opens up blood vessels so you have more blood flow, which is essentially the force of life. And then potassium we'll talk about too. But I want you to understand the macro minerals. And then things like the micro minerals, which you don't need to like, when I'm going to give you the foods list at the end of this, that basically I've combed through and I picked out, if you eat from these foods, you're basically getting everything. But examples of micro minerals are like iodine for your thyroid, boron for testosterone levels in bone health, iron for red blood cell production, copper for connective tissue and nerve function, manganese for your metabolism, selenium, antioxidants, chromium, blood sugar. So these are like literally, you look at the periodic table in chemistry. I can't believe we don't teach kids in this way, but like you go to chemistry class, you look on the left side of that periodic table, you have all these naturally occurring earth metals that are in the soil of the earth that the plants suck up and that we eat, and our bodies have unique functions for every single one of these. We need these. This is like the substance of life. And when we lack any of these mineral deficiencies, our health gets worse. And there were some old school doctors that truly believed that every single chronic disease could be traced to a mineral deficiency. And now I don't know if that statement is absolutely true, but I think it is qualitatively true that you probably listening to this are not getting one of these minerals. If you have thyroid issues, you should be looking into iodine and selenium-rich foods. We'll get into that. This is a way of saying that the deeper cut of nutrition, as you start to get on this path, is not just I eat high protein, I eat my veggies, I try to keep the carbs a little lower, I'm focused on the right calories. That is great, good starting point. Now, let's get best in slot, super nutrient dense foods. Now, I'm going to go through some of the macro minerals, and we'll go through and start to parse out some of the best foods of those, then the micros, and then some of the vitamins. We talked about those B vitamin foods, but sodium, it takes care of itself. You don't need to worry about it. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of people drink these Element electrolytes, LMNT. I'm not against them, but they're literally 1,000 milligrams of sodium in a packet. Unless you're doing some kind of endurance race, you do not need to get 1/3 of your daily sodium intake in a package of that. Like, sodium is part of the hydration equation. I personally would not use something like that unless I'm doing a long run and sweating a ton. Just a little caveat. Calcium, we've heard about this. Good for bones, good for hormone health. The two best sources of it, I'd say I'll give you a list of the best sources. I want to make an argument, if you can stomach them, that canned sardines are probably one of the best foods you can get into your diet. They are highly portable. When it comes to fish, they avoid a lot of the toxicity of larger fish that accumulate mercury. We're going to hear a lot more about nanoplastics and microplastics in seafood. We're all full of plastic. It's kind of like a hallmark of us being alive today. It probably has some health effects negative, but I don't think it's like insanely massive. But sardines are probably lower in microplastic accumulation. So a can of sardines, calcium, vitamin D, all your B vitamins, phenomenal. Take it anywhere. Wild salmon, canned salmon, also fantastic. Anytime you're eating fish, it is a good idea to drizzle that with extra virgin olive oil. The olive oil has some compounds in it that really pair well with the fish. They increase nutrient absorption, give you more antioxidant capacity. Just a really good thing. Whenever you have like fish, think olive oil with it. Not surprisingly, one of the best research diets of all time, the Mediterranean diet, is basically olive oil, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and some fish. So that's not surprising. I want to ask you, do you have a best in slot bean, legume, or lentil? If not, get that in. Like this is, again, something I think to throw on lunches and dinners, or maybe on the side of your eggs with breakfast, a few black beans. People are a little concerned right now with this idea of lectins and anti-nutrients. These are things that are in plant-based foods that bind up minerals, and some of them can be gut irritants. I'll tell you this, if you have a pressure cooker and you pressure cook your beans, or you buy pressure cooked beans, or you soak some of these things, there is zero actual concern, and you should actually eat your beans. I think you need to, for calcium perspective, as we're kind of talking about this, get greens in your diet. Like, we talk about greens. The way you really should get greens in is whatever your dinner meal is for that day, it should be a perfect plate style and have half of that plate be greens. Now, not all greens are created equal. There are some very good ones. Like, pretty much if you look at all the nutrients of, let's just say, kale or Swiss chard or collard greens, dandelion, bok choy, they all are loaded with vitamins and minerals. B vitamins, vitamin K, all the different kinds of minerals. They're fantastic. Some people are raising a big stink right now on nutrition about this idea of oxalates. These are things that are very high in certain plant-based foods that bind up minerals. People are figuring out they're not great for our kidneys, and they may be neurotoxic. So, for example, baby spinach, if you look at all the vitamins, minerals, micronutrients, it's loaded in the best stuff, but it's also very high in oxalates. And so the lowest oxalate greens that I actually love, and I think they're the best ones, are dandelion greens, bok choy, and arugula. Those are my top picks for greens. Dandelion greens, arugula for salads for many reasons. It's amazing in nitrates, low in oxalates. Bok choy is a great one. I'm talking about leafy greens here. Leafy greens, as opposed to things like broccoli and the brassicas and these things we'll talk about in just a little bit for different reasons. But leafy greens, if you can find dandelion greens in your store, at your local grocery store, probably the best green on the planet, low in oxalates, high in all the minerals. You can still saute it, add a little lemon, some spices, garlic, olive oil, or avocado oil. Amazing. Bok choy is a little like, maybe you like it, maybe you don't. It's kind of hard to cook, but it is very good and low in oxalates. And then arugula or romaine, but arugula has the most health benefits. It's a boost nitric oxide levels, which is phenomenal, really great. Now, when it comes to more calcium foods, I think that people could actually benefit from getting organic tofu or tempeh in their diet. So I personally don't tolerate tofu well, but I tolerate tempeh. And Jennifer asked a great question. Do the benefits of leafy greens outweigh the concerns of oxalates? I would say certainly. Yet, if we know from this perspective that we can pick certain greens that are lower in oxalates, like, why not? I think the oxalate thing is probably a little overblown right now, but they are showing, like, literally there is a chemotherapeutic drug that basically is a precursor to oxalate and then turns into oxalate and then kills cancer cells. So, like, oxalate is like, it's something. And I think it might be neurotoxic. And I think it comes down to certain people have genetics where they don't clear oxalates well. This predisposes them to oxalate-based kidney stones. Other people are probably totally fine. Other people could probably eat 3 cups of baby spinach a day for the rest of their lives and have no problem. And this is where, when we look at like genetics, certain people are going to be triggered a lot more by different things. So we're getting into the realm now, as like more testing is available, that blanket nutrition statements are a little bit, tough to make. But yes, I think it's still dark leafy greens. Find the ones you tolerate really well, meaning you should not have any stomach cramping. You should have good poops, no bloat, fine. But also, I even though I don't feel particularly bad on oxalates, not a bad idea to do some arugula or something like that. Arugula, phenomenal. I'm Italian, so I like the arugula. Try some fresh, high-quality extra virgin olive oil. Squeeze some lemon, high-quality sea salt on arugula. That taste profile is really, really great. Love that. Tempeh. Let me talk about this for a second. So soy kind of got like this weird PR campaign against it. There's like all the plant-based people are like, eat all the soy. Then like the animal-based people are like, soy is gonna, turn into estrogen and like, all this crazy stuff. And it's a monocrop. It's very big. There's a lot of pesticides. I personally do not feel well when I eat tofu. I get bloated. It doesn't serve me well. But like fermented tofu called tempeh, I put it in a red sauce. I get a red sauce. I throw nutritional yeast in the red sauce and throw the tempeh in. It is insanely good. I did not make up the name of this. This is what it's actually called. But tempeh is one of the highest foods in the world, in a compound called spermidine. Spermidine. They found it in sperm, not surprising. And like anything that's in sperm is probably pretty important for us, because it's like, this is nature and God, like loading up this little thing. You're going on an adventure. We're going to give you everything you need to survive. But anyways, it's high in spermidine. The spermidine is one of the things that we know is best for longevity. It is a true longevity superfood. There's people taking spermidine supplements now. You eat a half a block of tempeh as a part of your dinner or one of your meals, you're going to get more spermidine than these supplements even have. And Jennifer, yes, tempeh, T-E-M-P-E-H. There's many ways to cook it, but honestly, of all the ways I found, I buy organic tempeh. I just chop it. It's already pre-cooked. Throw it in a red sauce in a pan. Throw nutritional yeast in there, and it tastes really great. It really does. And I would say if you've never actually had a dinner that didn't have animal protein in, that's a growth opportunity for you. I'm certainly say like keep it in. You know, we're going to talk about a lot of animal-based foods, but it's cool to actually have some freedom knowing you could have some plant-based meals too. Now, broccoli is a great food to include. There are so many reasons for it. It is certainly high in calcium. When I look at like a dinner plate and you're going to pick a green to be on there, the cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, high on the list. High on the list. They're so good for so many reasons. They have so many beneficial compounds. And a little side note on broccoli, one of the other like true longevity superfoods is broccoli sprouts. I actually make my own broccoli sprouts, meaning I get the broccoli seeds and I have a little sprouter and I sprout them and I throw them on things. Like very good for longevity, but even just steaming broccoli, that should be a go-to vegetable for you. And final couple foods on the calcium, there's going to be a lot of crossover. Chia seeds, really great if you make a chia seed pudding or in a shake. Almonds, really great as a snack. I've always said for years, like best snacks are probably fruit plus nut combo. Choose any nuts that you want. Almonds are very good on the nutrient list. My number one favorite nut by far, hands down, is walnuts. And pistachios and macadamias are also good too. But like walnuts are a phenomenal superfood. Like I try to get an avocado a day, egg yolks every day, and walnuts every day. Like hands down, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about my nutrition in terms of what are the best in slot items. So that's cool. Now back to the macro minerals to kind of orient, right? We have sodium, which we talked about. You're basically getting that from all kinds of salt. Calcium, we talked about some calcium foods. Now let's get into potassium. Like this is that other thing. When we hear potassium, everyone's like, oh, it's good for cramping. And yes, that's totally true. It's an electrolyte. Your cells have sodium-potassium channels. It helps your cells maintain voltage and it helps your muscles contract and you lose it in sweat. It's phenomenal. The best foods for potassium, avocado, hands down. It kicks bananas ass. Like it's got the most. Like the most high fruits in foods and potassium are avocado, cantaloupes, oranges, and dried apricots. Apricots. Tell me in the chat what the right pronunciation is. But anyways, dried apricots, no sugar added, like a very good snack to put in. It's loaded in minerals. Another potassium food, potatoes. But we all know from a blood sugar perspective, regular white potatoes are not the best. Sweet potatoes have a much lower glycemic index, but they don't actually have nearly as much potassium as a regular white potato. They only have about one-fifth, or maybe like 1/10 of the potassium. But here is the new hack I've been doing. The purple potato. If you see these at your store, those purples, like they're not like the Japanese yams, but they're the purple sweet potatoes. Man, I think those things are awesome. Like they're so good. Instapot, skin on. The same things that make blueberries blue and good for you are in the purple potatoes. So you're getting like the benefit of blueberries. You get all the potassium from the potato and they're low glycemic and they have prebiotic fiber and some resistant starch. They don't spike your blood sugar. So like, wow, what a good thing to include. If you are enjoying potatoes, the purple potatoes, they're a little more dense, but again, you could put a little bit of grass-fed butter on there, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, and they're very good. So I'm making a small plug that like consider getting purple potato into your life. The greens that we talked about for potassium, arugula, dandelion greens, cabbage, romaine, dino kale, great. Guess what also has potassium? The beans. Have you picked a best in slot bean? After I get off this call today, I am going to have some black beans with dinner. Like that's what I'm doing today. Tomato sauce, amazing. Get a high quality organic tomato sauce and incorporate that into your dinner. Like the thing, if you just take this away from this live stream and you start getting a high quality red sauce, which I would define as made from organic tomatoes, you throw three of these tablespoons of nutritional yeast in there and mix it up and drizzle it on any protein you're already having. It doesn't even need to be pasta, but it could be pasta, it could be spaghetti squash, but just drizzle tomato sauce with nutritional yeast on there. You took the nutrient content of that meal and doubled it, maybe even tripled it just from that one hack. Same chicken, same steak, same fish, same whatever. You throw that on top, just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And I see some questions coming through, and I'm gonna go through, and I will handle some of those. So Daniel has an interesting question. Wouldn't eating eggs, avocado, nuts, and oils every day make it difficult to restrain calories while doing FF for weight loss? The fascinating thing about these foods that are higher in fats and protein, like particularly the eggs, avocado, nuts, and oils, they have the highest satiety factor of any food. Like they keep you full longer. Like, so I would say, like, most people probably after they eat an egg-based breakfast, let's just say that it has, 3 eggs in it, like that alone paired with an avocado, that combination might be like 400 calories, right? But it also could keep you full for like 4 hours. So that's fine. And I'll tell you, a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, it's 140 calories or something like that, outweighs any calorie load with the benefits of that super healthy oil. Midday snack, a serving of some nuts, 300 calories, phenomenal. Like, and if we're looking at calorie balance and you're doing 3 feedings a day and each one of them is like 600 calories, you're set. 2,000 calories. And this is really interesting, is like, as your body gets healthier, you can kind of like transcend this calorie thing a little bit. You're giving yourself like just deeper nutrition and your body can thrive. And actually, when you get more micronutrients, you're less hungry. Oftentimes when people are missing micronutrients, the body and the brain are still creating hunger signals to satisfy the things that we're not getting from just calories. Point being is, like, you could have a diet of like chicken breast and romaine lettuce that could be very high in protein, look good on this thing, but it's lacking all of these nutrients and it's not going to be good for you. Okay. And then also I want to make a big plug for squash. Winter time, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, start eating seasonally. Butternut squash, acorn squash, throw some cinnamon, salt, a little bit of butter, grate in an Instapot, grate in an oven. This is a low glycemic vegetable that is loaded with stuff. And that's what makes nutrition fun. It's like wintertime, let's do the wintertime kind of things. Summertime, we have different options to do these things. This keeps it fresh. So I think that's something we're saying. I want to make a little like a pit stop on dairy for a second, because dairy, obviously very high in the calcium we're talking about, also high in potassium. You need to figure out if your body tolerates dairy well. And there's not a one size fits all answer. It's actually largely based on our genetics and where we come from. And it's not just lactose intolerance. You hear that a lot. Lactose is the milk sugar that some people lack the lactase enzyme in their bodies. So when they eat dairy, they get this bloating and gas because basically their gut bacteria are fermenting these lactose sugars and they're not digesting it well. It's actually the milk proteins, the protein in milk that many people are sensitive to or don't feel well on. You got to figure that out. And what you'll notice is if you eat dairy and you don't feel well, you're going to get a stuffy nose. You might feel a little bit bloated. You might have a scratchy throat a little bit. These are signs of your body having a mild allergic response to dairy. If you're fine with it, you're just rocking and rolling on dairy, then incorporate that at your breakfast or as a snack. It can be one of the most wonderful foods. I would suggest organic dairy, maybe even explore the world of raw dairy, and maybe goats and sheep's cheese because they're slightly easier to digest than cow's cheese. So that's great, right? You find out if dairy works for you. If dairy works for you, get it in. Phenomenal. And I think we're also seeing that some of the raw cheeses and raw dairy is not denatured from the pasteurization process, which is not natural. We pasteurize dairy because we're selling it at large scale to humans, and there's liability baked in to having a living food with all sorts of shit. And there could be bacteria in there that you don't want. And some company doesn't want to be sued, so we pasteurize to control that. But that flash heating denatures the proteins and changes the nature of that food that has formerly living enzymes that gets changed. So just know that, like, a lot of the reasons that we do things are not because of individual health, but because of like liability and distribution on a mass scale. So Eric asked, what's better, almond milk or coconut milk? I would say almond milk. Reason being, coconut milk, although coconuts are valuable, the coconuts can raise your LDL cholesterol. And some people who have cholesterol issues, I do eat actual coconuts when I get them at the store, but I would say go almond milk if you can. And with an almond milk, if you want to really be a purist and get a best in slot, get an almond milk that doesn't have like gums in them. You'll see like guar gum and other things. This is really getting into the minutia. I don't know if that was actually going to cause any noticeable health change in your body, but they have some companies that just do like straight almonds, water, salt, that's it. And carrageenan is another like additive you might find in almond milk that definitely is not great, but probably okay in the quantity that they have it. Will D asked, do you have to sweat for a workout to be effective? Absolutely not. Many strength training workouts, you will not sweat. So no, that's not an indication of a good workout. And there's some other questions that are more specific. I will continue to go through these and hit them, but I want to continue on this nutrient train. So we talked about potassium, and kind of to come back to this, eat avocados, eat purple potatoes with the skin on, get arugula, get dandelion greens. That handles your potassium needs. Cool. Now, when you eat greens, you pair those with healthy fats. When you eat greens, you pair those with healthy fats, because all of these fat-soluble vitamins in these greens, they work perfectly well with this. So the idea of sauteing greens with spices is freaking genius. We're softening up those plant fibers. We're adding in salts and things that taste really good, and we have it with some olive oil or other healthy fats. It is genius how well that combination works. So consider getting that is in your dinner. I'm thinking dinner is the time where you get your big bolus of greens. Maybe the lunch salad. Maybe if you make a smoothie in the morning, you toss some greens in. Super cool, all good. Now, another mineral that is a macro mineral, we talked about magnesium. You got to increase your magnesium intake. One of the easiest ways is certainly to supplement. Supplementing magnesium is one way you can do it. There are many different forms. There's a couple companies that we like. One, and this is not exactly a magnesium supplement specifically, but this is the mineral supplement that I take on a daily basis, is from Beam Minerals, BEAM minerals.com. They have some humic and fulvic acids. I'll talk about those more when we get into the micro minerals. These are like mineral complexes that are super bioavailable that are great. We have we have a promo code for them, Fit Family. If you go to Beam Minerals, you can get that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And another company we have is Bioptimizers. They make a great magnesium supplement. So you can certainly supplement. I take Beam Minerals, and I also get magnesium from my foods. So one of the best foods to get magnesium from, well, I'll list them, like the dark green leafies. They have magnesium, tons of them. So anything that you've kind of ascertained from this on the dark green leaf vegetables, great. Black beans. So the argument for getting beans into your dinner, high in magnesium. My favorite right now, because it tastes amazing, is some raw organic cacao. Like cacao, the superfood that chocolate is made from, super rich in magnesium, as well as a lot of other mood boosting and focusing compounds. I'm using it now as like my main stimulant instead of coffee. This is me personally. There's a ton of health benefits to it, but cacao and chocolate can be great. And if you get some raw organic cacao, the brand I like is flycacao.com, FLYKAKAO.com. That is the best cacao on the planet for my friend Mackenzie. So that's great. And you can use it for, I sometimes for after dinner snack, I can melt a tablespoon of cacao in a little of heating a little pan and toss in some walnuts. Like that's an insanely tasty snack, and maybe a tiny bit of some raw honey. Wow. Like amazing health benefits out like crazy. And then cacao in the morning is good. Guess what else has magnesium? Avocado. You eat an avocado, you get like all this stuff is taken care of. Sweet potatoes have magnesium. Pumpkin seeds have magnesium. Other nuts have magnesium. So magnesium is phenomenal. Rosemary asks, magnesium glycinate, better to take at night. What is the optimal dose? Most supplements are going to have around 300 to 500 milligrams of magnesium in them, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. Magnesium bound to glycinate is a particularly good kind because it's very easy to absorb in your GI tract. The glycine amino acid gets dissociated from it, and glycine itself is very calming for the nervous system. Take it whenever, like all good. And in fact, if you can divide your dose and take a little bit in the morning, a little bit in the evening with a meal, that might be best. I recently did an interview with the guy, Wade Lightheart, who runs Bioptimizers. They have their supplement Magnesium Breakthrough, which is one of a magnesium that has a whole bunch of different kinds. He divides his magnesium throughout the day. So for what that's worth, but I don't know how much of a benefit that will give you. But glycinate at night is totally fine. What are the differences between magnesium glycinate and melatonin? Well, I mean, they're fundamentally like different, in the sense that one is magnesium that gives you all the benefits of magnesium. Magnesium is involved with 300 biochemical reactions, maybe more. So it's like it has way more scope than melatonin. But melatonin is very, very helpful too from immune system standpoint, antioxidant in the brain, anti-inflammatory in the brain. So you could use both, but your brain is going to make melatonin automatically at night. You don't need to take melatonin, where you do need to get magnesium. So that's the cool thing, I would say. Your brain makes melatonin unless you're not getting the blue light. Wheel D, if you have a well-rounded healthy diet, do you really need supplements? No. And this is kind of what I'm getting at, is like, I personally have like broken free from supplements. I'll only tell you like the supplements that I actually take. I take creatine monohydrate because it's really helpful and it's one of the easiest ways to get this. I legitimately every morning take a shot of the Beam Minerals, these two, if you only want to get one, the electrolyzed, because it contains all those trace minerals. And then the rest of it I get from food. I take Super Fuel, our protein powder, and that has a basically full spectrum B vitamin and some other good stuff in there that we threw, just because like I use it as a protein powder. And if you're gonna have a protein powder, you might as well have like a really good one that has some stuff. But like if you have the best in slot B vitamins and some of these foods I'm talking about, you can get it all covered from food. But your diet has to be like really packed with these best foods. Okay, so now we've kind of talked about those macro minerals a little bit. Again, sodium, calcium, magnesium, potassium. At the end of this, I'm going to distill it all down to my favorite foods list. So you can actually write these down as I go through them. It'll be like the synthesis of what might feel like a fire hose of information. But the micro minerals are so fascinating. Pretty much each of your major organs needs a particular micro mineral, which is like kind of poetic. Your thyroid, to make thyroid hormone, which controls your metabolism, needs iodine. Actually, what thyroid hormone is a bunch of iodines stick together on this thyroxine protein. And so where do we get iodine from? Seaweed, seafood, and dairy. So I don't know if you're eating seaweed in your diet. I'm personally not, but it would be an amazing thing to include some nori or wakame or these other things. You can make a broth if you want to get fancy. But seafood, right? Seafood has iodine. Are you eating sardines? Are you eating wild salmon? Like, there's a great place for it. And of course, the dairy. If you can tolerate it, dairy is a good source of iodine as well. So for thyroid health, that's really important. Boron. This is a mineral that helps with hormone levels. It's a mineral that's great for bone health. So if you're a woman, postmenopausal, need to get enough boron, need to get enough of the boron for testosterone levels for men. You supplement with boron, your testosterone goes up. Guess where boron's found? Fruits, dried apricots, avocados, almonds, and potatoes. So just to kind of piece it together, let's say you are eating those seasonal fruits. Let's say you're getting your avocado a day, having snacks of almonds and walnuts, and getting a purple potato. Like, boom, you get all this stuff. You get boron. It's amazing. And iron. Iron we need for red blood cell production. Every single meat has iron, especially the organ meats. But you can also get iron from plants, the dark green leafies, dandelion, lentils. So I would say, how about this? Like, what if you got a go-to chili recipe into your family's thing? And if you got really funky, you could throw in some of that ground beef in there that's actually mixed up with organ meats. There are some companies that make like the ground beef with the liver and the heart and all the things. You threw that in there with some beans and you pressure cooked it or Instapot it, and you maybe threw some tomato sauce in there for all the benefits of like the tomato aspect of it and some root veggies. What? That one thing. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And so what's cool is like when you figure that out and you get a couple of these like really go-to super powerful recipes, you don't need to do any more thinking. You just have this stuff baked in. And I would also throw some nutritional yeast non-fortified in there because why not? Copper. Copper is actually a really important mineral for mitochondria production, for antioxidants. It helps your nerves grow, helps wounds heal. There's actually this in this world of peptides. I don't know if you're hearing about peptides, but you know, there's a lot of peptides, and some of them actually are copper-containing peptides that help you heal faster. The way I'm getting my copper, well, the number one source would be organ meats, but the way I'm getting is through walnuts every day. Walnuts are a super high copper food. And there is actually in your mitochondria, these little aspects of your cells that produce energy, there is a final enzyme called, or I guess not the final, but there's an enzyme called cytochrome C that requires copper. So like you want more energy, you get more copper. It's really that simple. Like it's as simple as you get these micronutrients in, your body takes care of the rest. You know, manganese, this is another mineral that's important in bone health, metabolism, wound healing. Here are some high manganese foods: pecans, hazelnuts, chickpeas, lentils, beans, spinach, berries, cinnamon, cloves. So like, I guess if you're hearing a food that I'm saying repeated at like often, and that's a food you actually like, get it into your diet. This is also a fun stopping point because I think one thing that we've done is as a society, we've moved to the ultra processed foods away from like a lot of cooking, is we stopped using nearly as many spices. If you start incorporating more spices into your cooking, spices are the way humans used to get the medicine, or at least one of them. They have so many great compounds in them. All the things that make things aromatic, terpenes, the things that make the smell good and we hear the aroma, these are bioactive compounds. Like, thankfully, in this world right now, we're learning so much more. And like, one of the main reasons that in this whole cannabis industry now, it's becoming legal in different states and people are seeing all these effects and some benefits and costs, whatever, of cannabis, but it's the terpenes in them along with the THC and CBD that makes them very helpful and beneficial. You can get terpenes from basically anything that has smell to it. So one thing I do in the summer is I grow basil in our little home garden. I throw basil on basically everything. It's obviously aromatic, has a ton of great benefits. With a little olive oil, it's phenomenal. Can you do more cinnamon and clove during this holiday season? Even a drink of that, a cinnamon stick with that would be phenomenal for your health. And again, I'm making an argument because I don't think enough people eat the beans and lentils. Add those to your meals, you will benefit phenomenally. Now, selenium, of 2 more microminerals, and then I'll get into some more questions. Selenium, very important mineral for your thyroid function, for your immune system, and as an antioxidant. The #1 best selenium food on the planet is Brazil nuts. What I do is I go on nuts.com, it's a website, and you can buy Brazil nuts. I keep them in the freezer. I have 1 to 3 a day when I remember. It's not every day, but like 1 Brazil nut has basically your whole day's worth of selenium. And whenever you eat seafood, selenium actually does bind up mercury, and mercury depletes selenium. So that's just like it's a very functional food to have selenium in it's kind of medicinal. So like keep that around. I just keep it in the freezer. It lasts the whole year. Have one of those occasionally, great. But guess what else has selenium? Sardines, beef and chicken, dairy, liver, brown rice, sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, by the way, perfect thing to drizzle on top of your meals. So it's like, you're not in the habit right now of having a bunch of seeds in your diet. Like, cool, I get that. But you are in the habit of having salads. You are in the habit of having perfect plates. Why don't you just start like sprinkling this stuff on top of it? Like, this is the small distinction that actually has massive benefit because it gets you going on all these things. And finally, chromium. Chromium is good for blood sugar regulation. Broccoli, apples, whole grains like Ezekiel bread. So yeah, I hope you're starting to see that there are certain foods that are just like far and above excellent. And I'm going to go through the list right now of kind of like in summary, and then I'm going to take questions from the Q&A because I know we have a lot we haven't covered. So here are my top foods that give you maximum coverage for your micronutrients. 1, eggs. Eggs, eggs, eggs. You can get them anywhere in the world. They're so good for you. 2, liver. If you can tolerate it and eat it, get it in your diet. If you eat animal-based diet or you have some, get it in your diet. When I was doing this, I would do typically like a cow's liver or a calf liver, and you soak it in some milk. You can fry it up with some onions and some breading. But also, if you don't like the taste of liver, get some of these ground beef products that have the liver baked in. Your kids won't even notice. Walnuts, phenomenal nut, but I would say also almonds and pistachios are great too. I get my nuts raw. For what that's worth, I think it might be best. Typically, most things with fat are best when the fat is not cooked. So walnuts, I just literally get a handful, especially if I'm really busy and I don't want to eat a lot in the morning. I will have as big of a handful as I can grab of walnuts and a protein shake and 3 raw eggs. And I'm like rocking and rolling. Like, that's like as bootleg as it gets, but like amazing nutrition just from that. Fish, sardines, salmon, mackerel, herring. Like, there are other fish that are good, and there are tons of other fish. I would be very wary of fish that's coming from freshwater lakes right now. We're seeing a ton of like toxic runoff in many of these lakes from industrial byproducts. You're going to hear about these things called PFAS, called forever chemicals, that are super high in seafood. Yeah, I mean, fish is not the most pure source, but the benefits outweigh the costs. Sardine, wild salmon, mackerel, herring, great. Now, everyone's asking about cashews. Yeah, cashews are cool. They have health benefits for sure. They're not like the super nut in my book, but totally good. There are better nuts, but cashews are solid. They're technically legumes. Some people believe there's some toxic aspects of them, but I think that's deactivated when they're roasted. I think it's a good snack, and if you feel great having cashews, it's like perfect on-the-go food. It has higher carbohydrate content than actually a pure nut, great amount of protein, and has a lot of vitamins and minerals. So that's cool. On the list, avocado. I don't even think I need to say more. Like, this single thing has healthy fats, fiber, vitamins, minerals, all these trace minerals. It's just like this sacred thing, just concentrates minerals from the soil and hands it to us in a way that most people can tolerate. So cool. Non-fortified nutritional yeast. It's a hack. Throw it in your sauces, throw it on your salads. It will just give you, it's basically Mother Nature's B vitamin. Non-fortified, so you're not getting the synthetic Bs. Sweet potatoes, purple potatoes, great, amazing. Particularly the purple potato, if you can see that in a grocery store, get it. Leafy greens, any kind that you like, but the greatest emphasis I would say is on dandelion greens or arugula, if you can get it. Those are probably the best. The cruciferous veggies, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, wonderful to steam or roast. Drizzle on some olive oil, salt and spices, phenomenal. Surprisingly on this list, I just had to include it after looking at all the trace minerals, dried apricots. Great, I think it is a food that is now like available during the wintertime. Make sure there's no sugar added, but that can be a part of a nuts and dried apricots. Like, and this is, I want to include this too, because if you look on the package of it, a dried apricot is going to say that it has like 10 or 15 grams of sugar. And I'm saying, good. In this instance, 15 grams of sugar is no big deal because it has fiber, because it's coming along with all this concert of these really rare micro minerals that it has high amounts in that you wouldn't be getting otherwise. When you are getting deeper into your health journey, you're regularly training, you have good insulin sensitivity, no problem to have fruit into your diet. Beans and or lentils, plant-based protein, fiber, all good. Alan says, what about dates? Dates do have some good minerals. They have some health benefits. I think people go overboard on them because they think it's a more natural sugar, which it certainly is. One or date in a smoothie, fine. If you are sitting there just pounding dates, like 5 or 6 of those, I would say probably net not positive on that. And I will get to questions. I'm almost done with this list. Seasonal fruits. I want you to start eating more seasonally. So right now, wintertime in Northern Hemisphere, at least where I live, here are some things that are in season. Citrus. If you tolerate citrus, eat citrus. Natural vitamin C, quercetin, flavonoids. You can use lemon. You can do the grapefruit. You can do the oranges, whatever. Pomegranates. They're a pain in the ass to open, but I eat almost a pomegranate a day now that it's winter season. I have like a fruit table in my kitchen that has like 5 or 6 pomegranates. When one's ready, I open it up. I'm making a homemade yogurt that's made of coconut. It's coconut kefir, and I put pomegranates with that. They're insanely good. Rare compounds in pomegranates called ellagic acid that are so good for longevity and even muscle building. Great. Anyways, that's a pomegranates rant. Apples and pears, the stone fruits. You want to lower your cholesterol? Eat organic apples. Like, it's got the pectin fiber that is so good. It's a good prebiotic. Pears are great too. Have those. Cranberries, absolute superfood. Kiwi as well. Now, in terms of fats, if you can get a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil in your diet every day, you're winning. I sometimes even just like shoot it. I just like shoot the tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. And I want to say, when it comes to extra virgin olive oil, this is something I think you should buy top shelf. It might hurt to check out with this at the grocery store, and that olive oil, there's the cheap one in the plastic that was sourced from different countries that's like $10, but you're buying like the $25 one. But like, this is worth it. A high quality olive oil should come in a glass bottle. It should come from one country, not the constellation of all the shit leftover olive oil from all the different countries that they blend together and give you crap. Like, this is so many health benefits, it's worth buying up. California has good olive oil. Spain has great olive oil. Italy has great olive oil. I'm sure a lot of European countries generally do. So get a glass bottle olive oil. A popular company I used to endorse, they've kind of gone downhill, is Bragg, B-R-A-G-G. They were a great company. They've been running for years, but they got bought and their quality is going down. So if you buy Bragg, you see their products, like, beware. MCT oil. That is like a special kind of oil that we recommend in some of our shakes. It helps you burn fat. It gives you energy preferentially. It's cool. It's definitely like a very functional oil. I have a little bit of that in my morning cacao. It's good. High quality grass-fed butter. If you want to get more snobbish, it's not just grass-fed. Get like European or vat cultured butter. They actually culture the butter, which does some good stuff to, how the butter actually interacts with your body. So you can do that. And then high quality sweeteners, like ones that you good. So raw honey, raw molasses, or a pure allulose or pure stevia. Like get your best in slot sweeteners. For me, I don't use like honey as a sweetener, but I occasionally have like a teaspoon of it whenever I want to have a little sweet pop on something. I do use allulose and stevia. These are two sweeteners I may have in like a coffee type drink or something like that. But yeah, you just want to make sure that you're getting like a good type of sweetener in there. Yeah. And I would say one thing we're releasing, avoid artificial sweeteners, avoid things that have dextrose and maltodextrin in high amounts in them. Avoid the sugar alcohols like erythritol. I think we're finding that these are actually causing problems, and I would not have those. So yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the comments section now because I think I've ranted enough on some of these things. I'm going to come up high and work down from the top, and you can keep on dropping comments here. Okay, so Greg in the beginning said, why do other fitness professionals feel strongly about oatmeal in the mornings, but you yourself feel like carbs are not the way to go in the morning? Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's like not a right or wrong. It's kind of a philosophy thing. My take is in the morning, this is a time to keep your blood sugar more regulated. And many people find when they start eating more carbohydrates early in the day, that can kind of put them on a roller coaster of craving more carbs later in the day. Oatmeal is not strictly bad. I think it comes down to how you prepare it. If you're getting like an organic steel cut oatmeal and cooking it on a stovetop, like that's pretty badass stuff. And I think it could be a part of a good breakfast. And in fact, in our meal plan, we do have plant-based options for breakfast that do include some power oats or overnight oats. My take is keep the carbs on the lower side in the morning. You naturally have cortisol that's high in the morning that's elevating blood sugar. Focus more on the proteins, the healthy fats, the fibers, the micronutrients. But if oatmeal for breakfast is your jam, I think you can live a very, very long and healthy life for it. And I would just load that sucker up. I would have crushed walnuts. I would maybe have chia seeds and hemp seeds in there. I would probably put a little bit of raw honey in there. I would put like maybe some cranberries or some blueberries, maybe some cacao nibs. So I would say oatmeal would be a vehicle for all these other superfoods. That would be really good. Rusty, you asked if you're unable to stomach organ meats. What are your thoughts on organ supplements? Yeah, I think they're probably beneficial, right? I mean, they're really like drying organs and then putting them in capsules. I bet they're not as good as the real dose, though. I mean, maybe they are, but I'm trying to simplify my life, so I'm doing less supplements and more whole foods. I would say get into the ground beef that has the organs in there. You might like that. Donna, we talked about high quality eggs already. They're orange yolks. They're pasture raised. Spend more on that. I want to do a little plug on rice. Rice is a carbohydrate a lot of people include in their perfect plates and dinners. The best rice, in my opinion, would be a basmati rice. It has the lowest glycemic index, doesn't spike your blood sugar as much. And maybe you can throw some like broths. Oh, this is cool. I forgot about this. B vitamins, right? We talked about those in the beginning, some B vitamin rich foods. Mushrooms are some of the best B vitamin rich foods. So like what if on your perfect plate, you're throwing in now some beans, but also maybe a little saute of some mushrooms with some olive oil or grass-fed butter. Like perfect way just to like spice it up. Mushrooms are really wonderful on that. Okay, so can't find Ezekiel bread. Is there a good rice substitute for Ezekiel bread, or maybe a bread substitute was the ask? Organic sourdough, if you tolerate well, it doesn't bloat you and your poops are fine, could be a totally good option on that. Sourdough bread is easier to digest. And if you want to get really specific, the kind of wheat that I eat is einkorn wheat, EINKORN. It is the oldest wheat that we know of. Einkorn is like the original grain. There's some myth to it. People believe it's like the OG non-hybridized wheat. Now, Alan Ramsey talked about shilajit, which helps keep his blood sugar stable. Shilajit is this resin that they find in the Himalayan mountains that the yogis who live in that area swear it helps increase their longevity. Guess what shilajit has? Humic and fulvic acids, the same stuff that's in bean minerals. All bean minerals is humic and fulvic acids. And this is kind of poetic. One of the easiest ways to get all your micro minerals is using a mineral supplement like Beam. Again, beamminerals.com, FitFamily is the promo code for that. When plants decompose and they die and they go back into the soil, The decomposition process that happens from the microbes in the soil ends up yielding these things called fulvic and humic acids. They are these super bioavailable complexes of all these minerals that came from that broken down plant that get concentrated. And at first, it's really funny. Humic and fulvic acids, if you're into gardening or agriculture, are some things that people add to soil because they help plants grow. And then people are like, I wonder what happens if we have some of those things. Turns out it helps humans grow too. Like when we take humic and fulvic acids, it's full spectrum bioavailable minerals. And I just think it's poetic that the decomposition cycle of life ends up being the exact base elements that ends up feeding the recomposition and growth cycle of life. So that's cool. I like that a lot. Derek says, every time I eat legumes, I get really bad at indigestion. Well, I would say this. You're probably eating legumes. Well, clearly your gut bacteria is not having a fun time with those beans. There is still benefit to have beans in your diet, but it's not necessary. You can be totally healthy without them. There's many other ways to get all the vitamins and minerals we talked about. But I would say try soaking your beans or buying a company that pressure cooks them. Some companies will say on the bottle, like Eden Organics, we pressure cook our beans. That soaking and pressure cooking process deactivates a lot of these gas forming compounds in the beans. So that is cool. Yep, I want to give a plus for spaghetti squash. Do that in the wintertime. So good. We talked about cashews. Other spices I think that are very good. Cinnamon, cumin, coriander. Yeah, I mean, I would be throwing a lot of that on there. Oregano. Just like when you're making a dinner, look in your little spice drawer and be like, what could I throw on here that would taste like okay? Any bit of extra spice is going to be just really helpful for you. Larry had a specific question. He has stage 3 chronic kidney disease. Can I take any whey protein or creatine monohydrate supplements? Larry, that's one that I'm sure you have a nephrologist helping you manage that. It's a tricky one, right? Because in kidney disease, we definitely want to keep the protein on a little bit lower and specific. So it would have to like depend on your total protein intake for the day. I think a lot of these kidney sparing diets, when you actually have active disease, keep protein around 50, 60 grams. In your case, and I would work with your doctor, not medical advice here, it might be good to get an amino acid supplement that gives you like less total protein, but the amino acids your body actually needs. In creatine monohydrate, there are some people with one kidney or kidney disease that take it, but that is definitely something to run by your doctor because that has to be filtered with the kidneys. Yeah, Ed said go-to brand of almond milk. The Khalifa Farms unsweetened is definitely a phenomenal one. Sony said make a frittata with arugula. Heck yeah. And if you tolerate dairy, what about throwing a little goat cheese in there? Throw some peppers and some spices. Throw a little beans on the side. Dang, that is like a good meal. Absolutely love it. How do I feel about pastas? Well, I would say as I've matured and gotten a little bit older and actually am doing like less exercise than when I was like doing competitive bodybuilding and stuff, I am eating less carbohydrates and less complex carbs. And what I mean by that is I'm eating a lot of fruit and I'm only having like the carbs that would be like the rice or the potatoes and even pasta in some instances at dinner. That would be a time of dinner. I will have some of that. And I'd say just find the pasta that works for you. I am not a fan of modern wheat. Modern wheat has been genetically altered, hybridized. Non-organic wheat is often dried with glyphosate, which is not good. So when it comes to the pasta options today, you could try to get an einkorn wheat pasta. You can buy that online. That is a wheat that many people can tolerate well. There is also, chickpea pasta, lentil pasta you could try, brown rice pasta. Brown rice would probably be like higher glycemic index. But I'd say if it's occasional, if you don't feel too bloated afterwards, get it in. And hey, throw in some red sauce with some nutritional yeast and some healthy stuff in there. It can be okay. I don't have pasta often. My daughter is growing up on healthy version of mac and cheese. So we do a ton of that, right? I give her a rice-based pasta. She has a little bit of a milk protein thing. So we do a vegan mac. I still throw butter in there. So it's not like technically vegan, but it's not dairy-based, and a ton of nutritional yeast. And she's literally getting like the amount of nutrition that she'd get if she was eating liver from that. So that's a little like parenting hack. I'm looking a little bit more into some questions. And I'm also anaphylactic allergic to eggs. Next best option. Yeah, definitely avocados. Avocados would be great. And maybe looking into a choline supplement. A liver, I'd say, would be probably the best other option. Liver is super high in choline. Choline is one of the neurotransmitters our brain uses. If you want to have a sharp brain as you age, get a lot of choline. That's why I'm so like bullish on eggs, because they have a lot of choline. but liver would probably be another option. Avocados would also be great. Yep, Bioptimizers is a great magnesium company. Bioptimizers, Bioptimizers. We have code FitFather that works on that site. Real D, my view on weed legalization. Out of left field. I mean, I'm not sure I have like the deepest thoughts on that. Probably going to bring a lot of revenue to states that legalize it, has uses, and I think we're going to find a lot of the lower THC strains, high CBD strains are going to help a lot of people with a lot of things. And I think a benefit is it's helping us recognize the functional effect of these terpenes. The same stuff that makes weed smelly is also the same stuff that makes basil smelly and rosemary smelly. They have similar terpenes. So it's good from that. Karen, monk fruit is a totally good sweetener. Should we take a big break between workout sets? Well, John, I guess it depends on your goal of exercise. For traditional strength training, where you're trying to like build muscle and get stronger, having longer rest times between very heavy working sets is beneficial. But for general fitness and longevity, and for most busy parents who we serve, short rest times, high density workouts are almost always the right way to go. So this is either like MRT circuits like we do, like circuit training between things, or superset based workouts. That's probably going to give you a better metabolic effect from less rest. But if you're trying to like improve your bench press or your deadlift, then rest between sets. That would be good. Kyle, kimchi. Yes, brother. Yes, yes. Another idea, and this kind of jogs my mind, is like, I want you to get a best in slot natural probiotic. I don't think we need to necessarily take probiotic supplements. I think they're good and corrective when people have gut issues, and there's certain strains of probiotics that are good for specific things. But basically get a good probiotic food. I keep sauerkraut in my fridge at all times. Family typically has kimchi in the fridge, and I'm making this kefir yogurt that's phenomenal. So that's really great. Jennifer, quinoa, amazing. Soak it for at least 4 hours to remove some of the saponins that are a little bitter, and there's some anti-nutrients, but super high in minerals, really great alternative, high in protein, lower glycemic index than rice. I am a fan. If you like it, great. Could be on the side of any bowls. You can mix in a bunch of stuff. That's really good. John, will intermittent fasting result in lost muscle? Not if your protein intake is high, and not if you're strength training a few times per week. Body's muscle works on a use it or lose it kind of thing. If you're giving your body a signal from high tension in the muscles with enough protein, you're going to be okay. But too much fasting is catabolic, and that's okay. We want some catabolism in the body. That's like part of longevity, is actually like getting optimum nutrition with some calorie restriction. And I think intermittent calorie restriction through fasting is one of the best signals you can do. As a little aside, like, we're learning more about what happens as we age and why the body breaks down and gets unwell. And part of it is because we get these things called senescent cells, also known as zombie cells. Basically, you have cells that are hanging around. They're not dying, but they're kind of like just taking up energy and actually like releasing some inflammatory chemicals around them and kind of making the whole environment not great. Guess how you get rid of senescent cells? Fasting, exercise, all these good micronutrients. Actually, some of them have triggers for getting rid of senescent cells. I am a big proponent, as I've had in all of the programs, if you're a member, of doing a 24-hour fast once a week. That's long enough of a fast that you get into a deeper catabolic state where you do cycle out some senescent cells. And as you get more advanced and you do fasting, doing a 48 or 72-hour fast a couple times a year can be phenomenal for getting rid of those senescent cells. Protein shakes. Oh, that's cool. Ronald says eating beans at room temperature also helps the body digest better. I did not know that. That's really interesting. Jared asks, if I'm trying to lose 100 pounds, is eating a calorie count for target weight, eating calorie count for target weight too much of a deficit? If you have over 100 pounds to lose, you can create a massive deficit. Your body has so much to pull from. Like, I'd say probably, because you have 100 plus pounds to lose, your weight is at least 250 pounds, right? Maybe even higher. In that case, a calorie target of around 2,000 calories would get you moving at a really nice clip. And if you're eating these nutrient-dense foods, you're going to feel pretty full. Elias, protein shakes, should we get them? I believe protein shakes are a very valuable tool. I do not have them every single day. I have them after I train, and I often make shakes as like functional meals. We make an amazing protein powder. If you haven't tried it, it's called Superfuel. There are other great protein powders on the market. Ours has no artificial sweeteners, full complex B vitamins, some enzymes, some superfoods. So that's cool if you want that. But either way, yeah, I think protein is good. and find the protein that you feel best on. I feel best on plant-based protein versus the whey. So it took me a long time to figure that out. Best strategy for trying to eat less. I feel hungry all the time since Thanksgiving holiday meal. Well, I guess that's interesting that like just to notice is like when we get into these like binge cycles, often at times it does throw off some of our neurohormones that make us feel more hungry. I would say if you're not like playing around with intermittent fasting, that can help reset some of those hunger signals. 2, I would include more healthy fats and fiber, like we've talked about a lot here in your meals. Healthy fat, fiber, and protein is like the recipe for keeping you full longer. So take any meal you're normally doing. If you threw a half avocado or a drizzle of olive oil and some beans, that meal will have satiety factor off the chain. Way better. Yeah, one of the most you can't exercise a bad diet. It's so true, for sure. And yeah, and we had another question from someone coming into this is that they want to do cold plunging and they're wondering if they want to do it before their morning walk or after their morning walk. You could do it either time. My preference, if you can tolerate it, would be to do it before and then use the walk as a part of a natural warm up after the fact. So plunging actually before exercise causes this rebound effect where your body actually wants to heat up afterwards and you get enhanced blood flow. You don't want to plunge after exercise, but I would not consider a walk exercise. A walk is just like being a human. So yeah. What is your strategy on the evening? I crave carbs. What do you suggest to help curb that? I mean, part of it is like the dinner meal. I wouldn't be surprised if your dinner meal was lacking in some stuff that you could beef it up. Also, I am not against having a little bit of a sweet thing to finish the dinner meal. Like sometimes I think people don't necessarily like crave carbs, but crave like the sweet taste. And I'll tell you this, if you have a teaspoon of some raw honey or some dark chocolate after your meal, okay, it's 100 extra calories, not make or break. And if that's what helps you feel really consistent and is good, that's totally fine. I would say, and you may actually, Johnny, it'd be a better move. It's better for the body to have discrete periods of feeding and then discrete periods of fasting or not feeding. What's more problematic for the body is constantly pulsing with like, here's a little food, here's a little food, here's a little food. Because that means digestive enzymes always need to be working. Pancreas always needs to be responding. So a lot of people who feel hungry are just strictly like not eating enough during those discrete feeding times. So if you increase your protein, if you maybe had a little more carbohydrate, maybe a little bit of sweet thing after dinner, I think you'd probably be more set after that. And I also am a big proponent from a sleep perspective of not eating too late at night. It does reliably disrupt people's sleep. And sleep is one of the best things you can do for longevity. Albert, as my wife and I are still doing 3 to 4 Prolon fast per year. So Prolon is a fasting mimicking diet. It's a little kit you can buy that basically mimics a fast. I would say, Albert, that's equivalent in my book for you doing your 3-day water fast. I do the 3-day water fast, but the Prolons do that. I think it's a great longevity habit, get you into that deep autophagy, and that's good. So like Celine has a great idea. After your sweet tooth craving, quarter cup of Greek yogurt, right? Protein, selenium, calcium, and a few frozen cherries or cranberries or blueberries. Amazing, right? Just that little bit of a thing. And I think that gets you out of this idea, especially when you're choosing like great and slot nutrient dense things, that it's not like, oh, that's off the table because it has sugar. No, this is a thing that actually is giving you benefit. So that's good. John asks, I'm burning 800 calories daily through intense weightlifting, improve my shape, but my waist size isn't decreasing. Waist circumference for you, if you want to reduce the waist, is going to be a very good indicator of, your fat loss journey. I would say if you're not doing some intermittent fasting, that would probably be something that would really help. I think people are finding now that intermittent fasting is particularly good for dropping visceral fat. I would make sure that you kind of like dial in the eating side of things because it seems like you're doing a lot of good training and that's really effective. I would incorporate some fasting. I would look at ways where you can decrease the portions or increase the protein in the vegetables. And again, if you're not in our programs, like I guarantee you follow our protocols, your waist will start to decrease. Derek asks, thoughts on a supplement like AG1. Athletic Greens 1 is a mass marketed greens powder that I personally wouldn't take and spend my money on, but has some good stuff in there. They include synthetic B vitamins. I'm not a fan of that. I think with the real living foods I talked about in today's presentation, they kick ass, but there is a market for convenience and, there's some things. So yeah, I think that's like it. I'm happy to hang out here for another 10 minutes. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I'm having a great time. I really do love this. And I think particularly what I love about the live streams is the connection, and gives me an opportunity to rant, which, as you can probably tell, I enjoy, but also serve. So I hope this was very valuable. I'll hang out for 5 more minutes if there's any questions that people have coming through. And I might just talk about a few things that come to mind as we do that. But I just want to say thank you all for showing up. It means a lot to me. Is it okay to drink amino acid and creatine and take it before workout? 100%. 100%. Great thing to do. In fact, if I'm training fasted and I'm actually doing like a heavy workout, sometimes I'll take a little amino acid mix in some creatine. Doesn't really matter when you take the creatine, pre-workout, post-workout, that's great. Mara Lee asks, in regards to infrared saunas, what's the optimal times per week? Ideally, if you have access to infrared sauna, you can do it post-workout, that'd be great. Probably 3 times per week is great. Yeah, infrared sauna, even 2-3 times a week is phenomenal. Post-workout is the best time. Will, yes, I'm still based in Scottsdale, Arizona. Nate, you're welcome, bro. Thank you. Like, I'm glad you appreciate this. And that's it, right? I think what I'm getting to is, like, when you understand nutrition more, it is biochemistry. And what vitamins and minerals are like the cofactors that make all your enzymes work. And you have specific enzymes to do specific things. So what we want to do is blanket the body with all the substrate it needs for enzymes. And that's what vitamins and minerals are. So yeah, indigestion with beans, Derek, I did answer that. Try to soak your beans for a couple hours, or buy a brand that pressure cooks them. I imagine it's actually some of the lectins in the beans. Soaking the beans and pressure cooking them eliminates all the lectins. Even soaking them for about a couple hours, then pouring out that water that comes, it should be helpful. There's probably some beans that feel better for you than others. Okay, I've never taken creatine. Should I start? 59-year-old female. This is as close to a blanket statement as I can say. Almost every person besides someone with kidney disease would benefit from taking creatine. Yeah, it's just it. Like, if you have parents that are alive, it would help their cognitive health. You take it in the morning, it helps with brain fog. It helps with muscle building directly, because creatine is one of our pathways for energy production. We have a creatine phosphate pathway. And the more you take creatine, the more ATP and energy you get. Do I take bean minerals and add salt or trace minerals to your water? I have been doing bean minerals in the water shot and adding salt to all my foods. And Rusty, the cool thing is the humic and fulvic acids. Yes, you could do both together, because the humic and fulvic acids are not sodium based. They're the decomposition of all those like mineral complexes from the plants. They don't actually have sodium in them. I mean, maybe in like trace amounts in like some matrix, but not effectively like as much. You would be fine to get the macro minerals from the sodium and the micro minerals from the bean. Yeah. How much creatine to consume a day? 3 to 5 grams. 3 to 5 grams, which is about a heaping teaspoon. And I also want to say, like, I'm sure there's a mix of people here who are program members and maybe some not. Man, do we have some amazing stuff coming into 2025. I have been doing Fit Father, Fit Mother for over 10 years now, which is like wild how time flies. And there have been some years that have been like big years. Other years is like, not as big. Like 2025, a big year for this community. We are completely updating the app, all follow-along workouts, improved nutrition education, new front-end program for new members. That's like our best foot forward on all things. We are like kicking ass. Like, we're doing so much right now internally as a team to like hit Jan 1 rolling. So you will see, if you're not a member, opportunity to join us in our new front-end program, an upgraded version of what we have ever had. And if you're a current lifetime member, man, you are about to like have so much benefit, because Jan 1 we switch over to the new app, and like all the new workouts and all the things we're doing is just phenomenal. So good. Belinda, how to naturally reduce inflammation? Thoughts on castor oil. So inflammation is what the immune system does when there's damage. Chronic inflammation is at the basis of all disease. All chronic disease has likely some component of chronic inflammation. The best way to reduce inflammation is to stop eating foods that inflame you. When you fast, all your inflammatory markers decrease. Why is this? Well, fasting inherently does decrease inflammation in the body, but it's largely because you're not eating the shit that's inflaming you in the first place. Also, getting all of the great anti-inflammatory compounds, those omega-3s from the seafood, all of the nuts and seeds that have these different things, all of the fruits and the berries and all the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory stuff, they all have these same compounds that reduce inflammation. If you're eating the foods on this list, they're naturally anti-inflammatory. In joints, though, you might be asking, because you mentioned castor oil. Castor oil is a very unique oil that has topical benefits for reducing inflammation. You could use it topically, for sure. You could also use other essential oils. Helichrysum oil can be good for that. Myrrh, frankincense, and boswellia essential oils can be helpful for that. Taking a high quality turmeric or curcumin, which is a spice, but you want a bioavailable one. That's one supplement that I would say, if you're looking to control inflammation, is worth taking. And I would say I do occasionally, not every day, but I take our turmeric supplement that's on our Fit Father and Fit Mother store. It's kicks ass compared to the Amazon turmeric. So that is a potent anti-inflammatory. Eat more ginger. Ginger is a phenomenal functional food. One of the best natural anti-inflammatories, good digestive aid, good as a tea, good to throw into dinner. I buy ginger root every week. I throw it in foods. As much as you can do that would be very, very good. Best spice sources, get organic if you can, whatever brand your grocery store has, I would say. And yes, this is recorded, and we will send this out. So this is awesome. I had fun. I hope you did too. Again, I want to say again, thank you so much for tuning in. Like, the fact that there's over 100 of you hanging out with me right now, it's like, it's really meaningful. And I guess a testament, I feel grateful, like a testament to all the wisdom I've accumulated over the years of doing this. And thank you. If you haven't liked this stream, give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. I'm sure it helps with some YouTube algorithm of some sort. Help for being a vegetarian. I'll answer this because I have gone through phases of being vegetarian. You need to get your protein handled. You need to get your B vitamins handled. Probably good to get a B12 supplement. Definitely good to do the non-fortified nutritional yeast. Find out if you like tofu or tempeh and get that in. And you're going to be eating a lot of beans to make that, beans and hemp seeds to make that sustainable long-term. When doing a vegetarian diet, I think protein first, and I find the sources that fit well. And if you're okay in vegetarian diet of also including dairy, that will help you a long way as long as you can tolerate it. And if you're okay having eggs, that'll get even better. But I understand that might not be technically in your wheelhouse. But the best foods I would have in a vegetarian plant-based diet, plant-based protein powder, hemp seeds, tempeh, nutritional yeast, beans, quinoa, lentils. Lentils, making some dals and stuff like that would be great. And if you're vegetarian, you have dairy, getting some grass-fed butter and stuff like that would be really good. Rusty, thoughts on homemade bread using freshly ground wheat berries, but using yeast, not sourdough? Great. Awesome. You're controlling more inputs, would be really good. Again, with carbohydrates, here is your metric. Does it bloat me? Do I retain water afterwards? Do my poops change? If all those are checked and you eat something, your GI tract is fine, this is likely a food that works okay for you. If you eat something, your poops are weird the next day, you're retaining water. Like, the leaner you get, it's kind of cool because you can actually see a little easier when your body's holding more water. I know when I hold more water, I get like a little pouch down in my lower belly and my love handles kind of swell up a little bit more. And it's almost always because I ate a carbohydrate containing food that my body didn't agree with. So that's something to look at and know. Yeah, well, thank you all. So cool. I think there's a couple more questions coming in, so I'll hang out for 1 or 2 minutes, but we're still hanging around. I appreciate this so much. I'm going to be doing these live streams. I'm aiming for once a month. I just think they're a great way to hang out. And so please send your questions to my team. I know, like, if you're in the community, Ben and Coach Amy and all these are answering questions, but like, these also get filtered to me. If you have topics you want to cover on podcasts, if you want me to do live stream, like, send those in. These get filtered to me. And I will almost always have a topic that I'm passionate about talking about. I don't know if anyone's interested in like light, infrared lights and red lights and different things like that. Like, that's something I'm thinking about doing more on, because light is a very powerful and misunderstood and misused input for health. What about working out mornings and nights? Cardio morning, heavyweight nights? Awesome. Totally fine. Great. Do your cardio fasted if you can, would be a good idea. Have your breakfast afterwards. After you train, before you go to bed, protein shake would be particularly helpful after the weight training session. Try to get 30 to 40 grams of protein with creatine monohydrate in there. I would put the creatine and the protein at the end of the day, post-workout, but it really doesn't matter. I think that's fine. And Jose, because I know I think you are trying to lose weight. I'm guessing, or maybe that's just an intuition. A protein shake would be sufficient. If you're having dinner and then training, a protein is all you need before you go to bed. Earthing and grounding blankets. Earthing, legitimately good for you. Legitimately good for you. This means getting your skin in contact with the earth. It's so freaking poetic. Like the body works on electromagnetic potential, like all the power that we're channeling in motors. I mean, in its own way, it's not exactly the same thing, but we need electrons. And in fact, minerals like sodium, potassium just create voltage gradients in cells that makes them work. And that's all to kind of say is like the Earth is negatively charged. It is struck by lightning from the static discharge from the sky. It has metal in the Earth's crust that holds some negative charge. And especially if grass is wet, it has some dew. And basically what antioxidants are is they donate electrons to these things called free radicals so they don't damage our bodies. We get an antioxidant effect from getting feet onto the Earth. So that is earthing. Grounding would be any kind of like thing that plugs into a ground outlet, like a little pad or a sheet. I have all these devices. I don't think they're like as good as earthing, but they probably have some benefit. I think like the book to read is like Earthing by Clint Ober. And they have some stories, mostly anecdote. There is some research though, like getting connected to earthing and grounding causes red blood cells to not clump. Well, you don't want clumped up red blood cells, as you can imagine, unless you have an injury. So it keeps them like nice and fluid. And some cyclists slept in these bags and they found that they recovered faster and their wounds healed. So probably good. I have an earthing or grounding bed sheet myself. I sleep on one. I think it's like, but I'm in the game of majoring in the minors at this point. Like been in the game for so long. This is now you can get into the finer details. But you know, like Nate, you're probably there too. Ron, you're probably there too. So good to do those things. Best hormone supplements for competitive bodybuilding. I mean, that's an interesting question. Like optimizing your testosterone in whatever way you do that is going to help you build muscle. A lot of people are using TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, that will help you get jacked. But you're also taking external testosterone, which has a cost to it. And I would say anything you do to maximize your testosterone levels naturally would be what I would do. Any advice on cardio workouts for bad knees? Every time I run, knees feel destroyed. Don't run. I'm not saying running is like bad. Running is a very natural thing, but running, especially on hard surfaces, is hard on our knees. Elliptical, rowing machine, hand bikes, rebounder might be good for you as well. But no need to run. Elliptical machine, right? Cycling, hit intervals on a bike, really good. Thoughts on using cables for bad elbows and shoulder? I think cables are amazing. If you have a cable machine, I have one behind me here, that way. Really good because they give a nice, a good full range of motion, constant tension. Anything that takes pressure off your joints when you're training as you get older is a win. High medications for high blood pressure and it's controlled. No any concerns taking burn and test booster. Test booster in no way, shape, or form will raise your blood pressure. Burn possibly could, only because it has some natural caffeine, some natural stimulants, but it has about the caffeine a little bit more than like a cup of coffee. I would say if you take, I would say probably take them both. And if the burn were to raise your blood pressure, you'd be able to tell within 30 to 40 minutes of taking it. But long term, we formulated burn to be like a very gentle, not like a crazy stimulant. And it has health benefits. There's even things like, I think we have cayenne and maybe some ginger in there. All right, team, I'm off to dinner. Thank you. Appreciate your time. I will send out the replay of this. And again, grateful, happy holidays, blessings to you and your family. Stream is ending right now.